Breaking news now coming in from Ottawa. The Prime Minister and his wife, Sophie Gregoire Trudeau, have released a statement announcing they have made the decision to separate after 18 years of marriage.
Sophie Gregoire. Trudeau has finally spoken, and the tears she fought to control revealed a truth the world has only glimpsed from the outside. From the shocking yacht photos of Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry to her trembling, heartfelt confession, the real story behind their separation is finally coming into focus. How did private heartbreak become a global spectacle? What really happened between August 2023 and Justin's resignation in January 2025? Stay with us as we trace every thread, from the public storm to the quiet, hidden realities of co-parenting, and uncover what Sophie was finally ready to share. She didn't dodge the question. Sitting across from the host on November 12th during her appearance on Arlene is Alone, Sophie exhaled slowly, steadied herself, and spoke the words that shifted the energy in the room. We're human beings. It hurts. It wasn't rehearsed. It wasn't polished. It was raw. Perhaps the closest the public had ever come to the emotional truth behind a separation that had lived under a microscope for more than 2 years. For the first time, Sophie stopped trying to shield the world from just how deeply the headlines, commentary, and assumptions had affected her. Her voice wavered, not from weakness, but from the emotional weight of finally touching the pressure point she had spent months avoiding. She explained that she had worked so hard to remain composed and rise above the noise that she had nearly forgotten she was allowed to feel the weight of everything happening around her. The host didn't push for drama. She didn't have to. Sophie stepped into the vulnerability willingly. She spoke about triggers, not as cliches or buzzwords, but as real disorienting moments that ambushed her peace. A headline she wasn't prepared for, a careless social media comment, a photo ripped from its context and circulated without mercy. She described them as emotional landmines scattered across the landscape of her daily life. Stuff affects us, she repeated softly, almost reminding herself that acknowledging pain is not a failure. It is a declaration of humanity. Then she shifted into something deeper, the power of personal choice. After the separation became public in August 2023, she spent months learning where her emotional boundaries were and where they needed to be rebuilt. The world had opinions about her marriage, her role, her identity as a mother. But Sophie made it clear she was no longer performing emotional stability for others. She was choosing what to internalize, what to release, and what no longer belonged to her. When the conversation turned to her family, her voice softened. Despite the headlines, speculation, and relentless spotlight, co-parenting remained a non-negotiable priority. She emphasized that the separation didn't erase the years she and Justin spent building a life together, nor did it diminish their responsibility to provide stability and safety for their 3 children. The public spectacle was deafening, but inside their home, she said, the focus remained on compassion, predictability, and respect. By the end of the segment, this was no longer just an interview. It became a moment of release, a rare instance in which a public figure allowed herself to be visibly affected, visibly honest. She didn't offer scandal, she offered truth. And for millions watching, that truth hit harder than any headline ever could. But how deeply had this journey reshaped her? And was the world prepared for what she would share next? Stay with us. This was more than a soundbite. As the conversation continued, Sophie revealed what it had really felt like to watch the images, the gossip, and the constant comparisons unfold. There was no bitterness and no defensiveness, only honesty, carried by someone who had been quietly absorbing public judgment far longer than anyone realized. She admitted that the separation hurts deeply, echoing the sentiment she first shared in her 2024 interview with Katie Couric, when she challenged the belief that a marriage is only a success if it lasts forever, and a separation is automatically a failure. That belief, she said, was something she had to unlearn. Now, speaking with the clarity of someone who had lived through the aftershocks, she explained that once the news became public on August 2nd, 2023, even the most ordinary emotions became magnified by public opinion. A flicker of sadness could be framed as regret. A quiet moment could be twisted into indifference. The true struggle, she clarified, was not the end of the marriage. It was surviving the world's reaction to it. When the host gently asked about the photos and headlines that had circulated in the years since, Sophie didn't pretend they hadn't cut her. She spoke openly about the moment she first saw images of her ex-husband appearing carefree with celebrities while the internet dissected her silence. She remembered the tightening in her chest. Not jealousy, she explained, but the shock of seeing private emotion turned into public entertainment. She had to learn how not to let those images define her. She explained that triggers aren't always dramatic. Sometimes they are a headline she didn't expect, a comment passed on by someone she trusted, or a sudden burst of collective curiosity on a day she hoped would be quiet. Each instance became an emotional test, an invitation to choose who she wanted to become long-term, not just how she wanted to react in the moment. When the conversation shifted to identity, she revealed something few public figures admit. After stepping out of the role of a prime minister's spouse, she had to reintroduce herself to herself. For years, she had been seen through the polished lens of political life, composed, unwavering, expected to rise above everything. Now she was learning to claim space that wasn't defined by title or marriage. Who am I outside this story? What does fulfillment look like now? What do I want, beyond the expectations of a country? She admitted she is still figuring it out. Her interviews across 2024 and 2025 were not contradictions, but snapshots in a process. Pain, confusion, clarity, acceptance, and the fragile beginnings of empowerment. She never claimed to be at the end of her emotional road, but in admitting how she has handled watching everything unfold, she allowed the public to witness a pivot. The moment she stopped letting the story happen to her and began choosing the story she would tell. The world would soon be hit with a storm, and nobody was ready. Then the photos arrived. A yacht, a kiss, and an avalanche of social media reaction that swallowed the internet whole. It started quietly, grainy previews late at night. But within hours, the images were everywhere. Justin Trudeau and Katy Perry, unmistakably relaxed and affectionate on a yacht off the coast of Santa Barbara. These weren't curated political images or planned public appearances. They were candid, unfiltered fragments captured in late September and released on October 11th and 12th, 2025 by People, InStyle, and the Daily Mail. Katy Perry in a swimsuit, sunlit and carefree. Trudeau shirtless and smiling in a way Canadians rarely saw during his years in office. Photos of laughter, of closeness, of silhouettes leaning into each other. And then, the image that detonated across the internet. The kiss. Not staged, not disguised, unmistakably real. The explosion was amplified by what came before it. Back in July, Justin and Katy had already been spotted together in Montreal. First in a quiet cafe, then in blurry fan-shot videos that circulated before disappearing. At that time, reactions ranged from shock to disbelief. Surely not, people thought. Trudeau had only recently stepped away from political life in January 2025, and the August 2, 2023 separation still felt raw for many. The Montreal sightings planted the seed. The yacht photos confirmed the story, and once people published the high-resolution images on October 11th, followed by InStyle and the Daily Mail the next day, the digital wildfire could not be contained. Social platforms erupted. Memes, reaction videos, body language breakdowns, accusations, and fierce defenses. The Santa Barbara setting added fuel. A place known for celebrity privacy suddenly became the stage for one of the most unexpected public reveals of the year. The conversation didn't stay in the lane of romance. It spilled into politics, culture, fandoms, and international commentary. Some people gasped in surprise. Others criticized sharply. Many simply stared, stunned by how dramatically Trudeau's post office life shifted. But perhaps the most striking detail wasn't the kiss. It was how natural they looked. Two people who were not performing for cameras. That authenticity made the images impossible to ignore, impossible to dismiss, and impossible for the internet to process quietly. Within 24 hours, rumor became certainty, and the ripple effects reached far beyond Santa Barbara. To understand everything that followed, we have to see the timeline clearly. The story begins long before the yacht photos. On August 2nd, 2023, Justin Trudeau and Sophie Gregoire Trudeau publicly announced their separation after 18 years of marriage, a partnership that began in 2005 and brought 3 children into the world: Xavier, Ella Grace, and Hadrian. It was a moment Canadians never expected. That day, both emphasized stability, respect, and co-parenting, and Sophie continued her advocacy work in mental health and wellness. Trudeau remained in office for more than a year after the announcement, but the public strain became more visible with each passing month. The next turning point came in January 2025 when Justin formally resigned as Liberal Party leader, stepping away from the relentless scrutiny of public life. Many assumed he would retreat into private reflection or dedicate quiet time to his children. But by mid-2025, the narrative took a sharp turn. In July, Justin and Katy Perry were spotted in Montreal. At first, the sightings were dismissed as coincidence. Two public figures crossing paths in a large city. But photos taken by locals told a different story. Close conversation, easy familiarity, and a comfort that went beyond chance. By late September, the turning point arrived. The Santa Barbara photos captured intimate moments aboard a private yacht. Although taken in September, the images did not reach the public until October 11-12, 2025, when major outlets released them in rapid succession. Everything from Trudeau's post-political identity to his romantic life became global debate. Seen clearly, the sequence reveals a progression, not an overnight shock. The separation in 2023. The resignation in January 2025. The quiet sightings in July. The yacht photos in October. A transition from public marriage to private reconstruction, then to a new stage under a spotlight bright enough to warp perception. Understanding the timeline strips away some chaos and turns tabloid noise into something more human. An evolution, not an explosion. But behind the global commentary was something quieter and far more personal. 3 children still needing steady ground. Behind every headline, 3 young lives needed calm. And on this point, both Sophie and Justin have remained steadfast. Their separation did not dissolve their commitment to raising their children together. Sophie has said repeatedly, "I am definitely not a single mom." A reminder that away from cameras, a cooperative partnership continued. For all the speculation, the truth is simple. The family structure did not collapse, it reshaped. Sophie has long protected her children's privacy, resisting attempts to turn them into political accessories even during the Prime Minister years. When the separation became public, that instinct only sharpened. She explained that the emotional environment at home mattered more than any public interpretation, and maintaining normalcy became the foundation. School routines, shared responsibilities, stable communication, and consistency. She emphasized that despite the pressures around them, Justin remains fully present and available to the children, a point often lost in public reaction. Parenting continued. Birthdays, school events, everyday decisions, and the emotional tightrope of raising teenagers and a younger child under intense public scrutiny. But she also acknowledged the personal toll. Public life blurs boundaries until the family becomes an extension of headlines. Every rumor, every photo, every critique has the potential to echo inside their home. She learned to filter the noise, to build a shield around the children, separating personal hurt from parenting choices. The spotlight may magnify emotions, but inside their home, she insisted, the focus remains on empathy and consistency. Sophie's mental health advocacy informs every part of her approach. She teaches her children how to process attention without absorbing it, how to stay grounded when the world invents its own version of their family. In the end, this chapter is not defined by scandal or commentary. It is shaped by the deliberate choice to put their children first, every day, without fail. Their marriage may have ended, but their commitment to Xavier, Ella Grace, and Hadrian has not wavered. But how did the world respond? And could public opinion ever understand the full picture? The reaction was immediate and intense. Within minutes of the yacht photos going live, social platforms erupted. Some criticized Justin for moving on publicly. Others insisted he had every right to rebuild his life. Katy Perry's fans defended her fiercely, while calling the outrage exaggerated and reminding critics that both adults were separated and free to live their lives. Media outlets amplified everything instantly. Page 6 framed the kiss as the moment that broke the internet. Entertainment platforms leaned into the unexpected fusion of global politics and pop culture. Reactions were polarized, emotional, relentless. Some accused Trudeau of disrespecting his family. Others countered that he had made no public statement, had not commented on the photos, and had remained largely private since stepping down in January 2025. What escalated the frenzy even further was that neither Justin nor Katy responded publicly. No clarification, no denial, no explanation. only silence which left room for projection and assumption. Meanwhile, Sophie unexpectedly became the emotional anchor in the storm. Her vulnerable podcast appearance, released just weeks before the photos surfaced, created a sharp contrast between her openness and the internet's fixation on Trudeau's romance. Many expressed sympathy, praising her composure and highlighting her devotion to her children. Others warned not to cast her as a victim, pointing out that she herself emphasized growth, healing, and partnership, not blame. Where the story goes next does not depend on headlines or speculation or internet frenzy. It depends on what the three people at the center of all this choose to share or to protect. So what do you believe Sophie's tearful confession reveals? Is it the final chapter, or the beginning of a deeper truth still unfolding?